Welcome to another edition of the Ultimate Weigh-In Show. I'm your host, Manpreet, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and your boy on Twitter at MMALOT. And this week we're going over a big UFC 262 card headlined by a vacant lightweight championship scrap between Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira. I wanted to say Charles Oliveira first, but I fucked that up. But it is what it is. Live TV, baby. We're going to keep it going. Big scrap for sure. Obviously, a lot of people want Dustin Poirier to be in there. Is what it is. I'm still excited about this matchup as I believe it's going to be fireworks from the first bell all the way until somebody gets finished. Hopefully somebody ends up getting finished. But throughout the card, great names littered. We got Tony Ferguson, Benio Dariush, Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza. Absolute banger of a card. And not to mention, we got the crowd back in the arena there too. I believe they're down there in Houston at the Toyota Center. So should be ruckus just like it was over there in Jacksonville, I believe it was, that they had the last pay-per-view. I can't wait. And obviously, I brought me some great friends, some sharp dudes. Some of them you might have heard of. Some of you might not have heard of. But I promise that they all are sharp and they have great takes that you're going to want to hear before you go to your betting window and make your wagers for tomorrow. So let me start bringing these guys in one by one. First and foremost, I got to bring in my guy, Adam Martin. Adam Martin from BJPen.com and a plethora of other places. Adam, what's going on, my buddy?
Oh man, I'm good. First time on the show. I was on your MMA Connoisseur show. I think like 2 years ago, dude. You had 3 Patreons back then, and I just saw you tweeting today. You said you had you're gonna get to 400. This guy had 3 guys. So what you've did in 2 years is pretty crazy, man. So just congrats to you, dude. I'm happy to be here, man. Talk about this awesome card. Great card. Should be good to break it down with you guys.
Absolutely. I just want to give a quick story before I bring the rest of the people in. I've known Adam Martin. Adam and Cody I've probably known the longest, especially around this space. I used to manage a fighter named Gary Mangat, or somewhat manage him very, very softly. Whenever he would come over to Toronto, because he lived on the Vancouver side of things, moved to Montreal to train at TriStar, and then eventually would come to Toronto and do some things over here. And Adam wanted to interview him. So I brought him to Adam, who actually worked at the Score at the time, downtown Toronto, brought him in there, and they just interviewed each other, blah, blah, blah. It was a great time. And that's the first time I actually met Adam. Added him up on Facebook, and we've just been friends ever since. And I'm glad that our paths continue to cross over the years and that we still get to talk to each other and cover the sport that we love. And you've had a lot of success. I've had a lot of success. It's just amazing that we're able to do this the amount of time we are. The last thing I'll say about this, the guy that I brought to interview to him is actually fighting tomorrow morning on ONE FC. His name is Gary Mangat, Saint Lion. I can't even recall the guy that he's fighting, but an Indian fighter, hoping that he can go out there and actually come to bring his performance or his top game performance. I believe he's down there in Las Vegas now, training at Extreme Couture. So he's really rounding out his game compared to training at TriStar. And he trained with DJ for a couple years over there in Wacoma, Washington, I believe, or Tacoma, Washington, I should say. So yeah. Hopefully Gary Mangat pulls it off, and even Arjun Buller. Hopefully he can pull off the upset and beat Brandon Vera. All right, let me bring in the rest of the crew here. Next up, we got my guy Danny Legs _ the Capper on Twitter. You guys know him from the Club and Sub podcast. I've had 2 guys from the Club and Sub podcast already on here, and I definitely had to have Legs as well. Legs, what's going on, my dude?
Not much, man. Happy to be here, and we just chatted up on Wednesday about this card. Happy to have you on our Club and Sub podcast. But happy to be here.
Yeah, you killed it in the host role, because I know that's really not your role. Our guy John Stargain was out of the chat for a little bit, so all good. I'm glad that we're able to do that show on Wednesday. Shout out to Magic for actually hopping on the show and doing his first ever podcast appearance. And then obviously chilling with you guys was always a treat. And then lastly, this man I just stumbled upon recently, but he is a sharp motherfucker, and I'm very glad to have him on the show. We got my guy AJ. AJ, what's going on, my guy?
Great to be here. Blessed to be here. It's an honor. Thank you so much for having me on, man. Looking forward to chatting it up with these fights.
Hell yeah, dude. Trust me, that man is very sharp. I can't wait to break down these fights with these guys. So not too much to kick off the show with. Just want to remind you guys, make sure you guys like, subscribe, do all that type of stuff. We're going to be going over the entire card from bottom to top for you guys. And then at the end, something new that I want to add to the show is I'm going to get everybody's lock of the night play, essentially. Again, lock is a taboo word in the gambling world. I don't give a fuck. Clearly, I don't give a shit about calling anything a lock. I know there's nothing lock worthy in the world, but we'll always give you guys our best and most confident play, and that's what I'm going to be getting from my guests moving forward on every single episode of the Ultimate Weigh-In Show starting tonight. So just stick around for the last segment, and they'll give you guys their lock of the night play. All right, let's just get this thing going. Bottom of the card, first fight of the night, we got Sean Soriano going up against Christos Giagos. In terms of the lines, Giagos one of the bigger favorites on the card. I believe second biggest favorite on the card at this point. favorite, minus 190, plus 175 on Sean Soriano. I'll kick things off here. I like Christos Giagos, right? Like, you know what he brings to the table. Wrestler, grinder, likes to take you down. The only issue here, though, is, which is why I'm not trusting him at minus 190, that gas tank gets a little bit iffy in the third round, right? Like, that's where it's just like, is he going to be able to survive whatever his opponent's throwing at him? Who knows? He was able to survive Damir Hadzovic's punches and power, and I believe Hadzovic is a much better striker than what we're going to be getting with Sean Soriano, not to mention bigger power from Hadzovic. But again, MMA math doesn't really work out that way. Sean Soriano obviously making his return to the UFC after going 0-3, not to mention 2 of those fights on short notice, but stylistically horrible matchups for him. You got Tatsuya Kawajiri, Charles Rosa, and Chad Skelly going out there and just grapple fucking him to death. And then he ends up getting cut from the UFC, makes a couple rounds on the regional scene, and then eventually finds his way back to the UFC on short notice. What he's been doing in the meantime, Sanford MMA guy, seems to really take a role in the coaching style over there too, right? He's holding pads for guys. He's cornering guys. He's almost taking the Gilbert Burns route over there in Sanford MMA, helping out Henry Hooft, making sure that the regional fighters are good to go. So that's obviously got to help your game, right? But how much is it going to help you in terms of stylistically when you're getting grapple fucked once again? That's exactly what I expect Christos Giagos to do. And as I dropped on the Prop and You Up show last night, I do like me some Giagos, and I do like me some Giagos by decision plus 125, as I don't think he's going to be going for submissions much. I don't think he's going to be going for the KO much. And again, you want to conserve that gas tank when you are having that type of style, which is just grinding, exerting all that energy, and just trying to dominate your opponent. And I think that's exactly what he'll do here. Just a little bit iffy about that third round. But yeah, my pick is still going to be Giagos by decision. Adam, I'll let you pass it on over to you. How do you see this fight going down?
Yeah, I feel like this is a tough card in general, but this fight seems kind of clear-cut. Giagos should be able to just wrestle Soriano. Like, the first time he was in the UFC, he was just taken down, submitted. I don't know if he's even improved that. You know, it's hard to say, really. Like, he's been submitted on the regional scene since then, right? But obviously his striking looks good. His last couple fights got some knockouts. He's looked good. Obviously training at Sanford. I love that gym, guys. Like, I bet on those fighters all the time. Yeah, their team's so consistent, right? But man, he's coming in on short notice, and really, I think he should be at 145. I don't know about him at 155. Obviously, he looks like he's in good shape. I think the fight probably goes 3 rounds. I'm leaning towards Giagos by decision, but there is something keeping me away from this. I don't know. There's something about this fight that I don't know, but so no play for me right now. But I do lean towards it. I pretty much echo your statements, man. I think Giagos by decision seems like a likely scenario in this one.
Yeah, sometimes you can't neglect what your gut is feeling, and especially if your gut is telling you not to bet the chalk, probably don't bet the chalk. We'll see what happens. Legs, how are you seeing this fight go down, buddy?
Yeah, similar to you guys with Giagos by decision, but the thing is, though, I do think he could have chances to find submissions here, but like you saw in his last fight against Carlton Minus, like the submission skills aren't exactly there, and like you touched on cardio, so minus 200. Finishing upside isn't exactly there. The cardio isn't exactly there. And then on the other side with Soriano, you already touched on Adam, short notice. And on top of that, I think his cardio was that good, to be honest, to begin with. So I think Giagos could find a submission, but again, I don't think his submission skills are too highly enough. So I think it probably lasts to a decision, but not too confident because of the cardio.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up about Soriano's cardio, not to mention that Bruce Boynton fight that he lost, which was his last 4 fights ago, comes in as a minus 520 favorite, blows his wad in that first round and gets choked out in the second. So, yeah, it could go both ways here. AJ, you give him more credence to Soriano, or do you think Giagos takes this?
I mean, I got to give Soriano some respect. He's in high regard. Even Michael Chandler on the Embedded, I don't know if you heard us talking about how good his striking is. So I do acknowledge if they're striking, I got to say, Soriano has a legit finisher's chance on the feet. But Giagos knows the weakness in the game. Get the wrestling going. And if you look, Giagos sets up his takedowns with punches fairly well. I think he's going to look to chain wrestle, remain on top for 3 rounds. And physically, he's going to be stronger. You look at Soriano, as you guys said, best suited for 145. At 55, Giagos physically stronger, better grappler, unanimous decision. I like the idea of betting Giagos maybe with a little sprinkle on the prop of the decision. And I'm also thinking of parlaying him up, but I was waiting till the weigh-ins. And I got to say, I was impressed by the physique of Giagos as well. He's in good shape. Gas tank could be an issue, but Soriano not having that much to offer off the back, I think cruise to decision here. Giagos.
I like it. Yeah, this is the ultimate weigh-in show after all, and I'm glad that you brought up that he did look on this good on the skills. I should also fix my sticker up there. There we go. The ultimate weigh-in show, not propping you up. But yeah, unanimous here. We got Christos Giagos more than likely by decision. All right, let's move on to the next fight. We got Kevin Aguilar versus Tucker Lutz. Very close fight. Obviously, we got the odds at -110 for Tucker Lutz, plus 100-ish, -105 for Kevin Aguilar. Adam, I'll get you to kick this one off. Who are you feeling in this close matchup?
Yeah, it's an interesting fight because Aguilar historically does have good takedown defense, right? But I still think Lutz can get him down, guys. I think he's going to be able to wrestle this guy for 3 rounds and win in decision. I was pretty impressed with the 2 fights on Contender Series. Like, I know he didn't get finishes, but he did go the full 15 minutes in both fights, got some experience. Kevin Aguilar is a guy you just want to fade. I just don't think he's a UFC caliber fighter at this point in his career. I know he's fighting at home. If the fight does stay, he could have the advantage, but I just feel Lutz takes him down. Grinds it out. So I like Lutz here, guys. I think he wins a probably decision. That's what I'm thinking. Aguilar's pretty durable, so Lutz by decision.
Aguilar did surprise me coming into the UFC with a 17-1 record, considering how he fights. I was like, how the fuck is this guy 17-1? That one loss is Leonard Garcia, I believe, in like 2013 or 2014 or something like that. And that's 2013, 2014 Leonard Garcia, not fucking Leonard Garcia having wars with Korean Zombie years prior. Legs, how are you feeling about this matchup?
Normally, us on the Club and Sub podcast, we usually try to make a case for the UFC veteran against the Dana White Contender Series guy coming in here, but I don't think there's much of a case to be made for Kevin Aguilar. I just don't. So like I touched on, I think he's just a guy you kind of fade. Even the Charles Rosa fight the last time out, you're losing striking to Charles Rosa. I think it's just a pass. But I lean Lutz here, but I'd have to pass on the fight in general just to see see his first fight in the UFC, see how it goes against a tough vet.
Yeah, for me, it seems Aguilar is somewhat one-dimensional. Do you echo those sentiments, AJ, or do you give him more credence in his game?
I can't be huge on Aguilar. Stiff is something that I have to say with Aguilar. Not a ton of head movement. You see him hittable inside the pocket. I thought that his chin was shot after Tukhugov put him out. But I will say against Rosa went to 3 rounds. But as we mentioned, Rosa is by no means a striker. And in 2021, that loss to Rosa looks bad. Tucker Lutz, decent grappling game. Not going to say he's, the next Khabib, but the guy has pretty good takedowns. His control from the top is decent. And his kickboxing is actually pretty credible. I'm impressed by him. Enough so to beat Kevin Aguilar. I think he definitely wins this fight. I like decision. If Aguilar's chin really is shot, maybe we see a knockout, but more so, I'm going to lean decision victory, Tucker Lutz. I think that he's going to get it done here over a guy who's not that old in Aguilar, but he seems to be older physically, the way he fights, the way he's moving. He seems slowed down. I don't know if I might be wrong on him being out of his prime and finished, but he looks towards the end of the career, in my opinion.
All right, that's 2 fights down for us, and both of them unanimous decisions, because I'm going to be on Tucker Lutz as well here. I think that he brings much more to the table in the striking realm. And when I was talking about Aguilar being one-dimensional, it's just like he seems to just move in a straight line, wants to knock your head into the fifth row. It seems like he only grapples when his opponents initiate the grappling. Otherwise, he's just like, I'm going to walk you down linear, not try to cut you off the cage or anything like that. The guy is savvy. I mean, he's 17-4, 21 fights. But obviously he's on a pretty bad streak right now, going 0-3 in his last 3. But yeah, this is a tough one. And just like Legs, I try to go out there and look for reasons to fade Contender Series guys. This is not the spot. This is not Gloria DePaula. This isn't, those other fighters that are coming off the Contender Series.
About Muniz.
Exactly. I know you're happy about that one because you're on McDessie that night. Exactly. So yeah, Lutz for me. So we got Lutz all around here. All right, let's move on to the next one here. And if I told you guys 2 years ago that Gina Mazany was going to be the biggest favorite on a UFC pay-per-view card, you guys would call me a crazy motherfucker, right? Legs, I'll let you kick this one off. Priscilla Cachoeira, plus 180, minus 200 on Gina Mazany. How are you seeing this one go down?
I think it's one of the first dumpster fires we got out of the card. To be honest. I think from betting perspective, I think gun to my head, I would have to bet the under at plus 200, plus 220. But even that, I would pass, to be honest. In general, I think Priscilla's pretty round one or bust, and I think Mazany could get takedowns here, could get a submission, but she's pretty unreliable on the feet. And I think that a blitz KO from Priscilla in the first round is definitely live here.
For me, it's going to take more than one great performance against a girl like Rachel Ostovich, who was 4-5 going into that fight, for me to go out there and bet a girl like Gina Mazany at minus 200. AJ, how are you feeling about this matchup? You think Cachoeira has that opportunity to pull off the upset, or you think that Mazany rolls here?
I saw the minus 200 price tag for Mazany open up, and I was just as shocked as you guys. I mean, you beat Rachel Ostovich. Granted, on the other side, Cachoeira beat Shayna Dobson, so neither of them have really won a fight in the UFC as of recent against anyone notable. I personally would not bet Mazany. The things I do like about her, southpaw, lots of movement, pep in her step. I mean, the girl moves fairly well, fights from the outside decently, good wrestling, not great. Priscilla Cachoeira got some power in the hands. She's tenacious. I'm dogger passing it. I'm going to go the dog Cachoeira, but by no means am I calling this the lock of the night. This right here, win, probably KO round 1 if you have to pick it, but I wouldn't throw much down. Maybe sprinkle the prop if the plus money is valued at good enough price, but I don't love a bet here. Women's MMA is crazy, especially with two girls who have taken losses in the UFC, a good amount.
Absolutely. Look, when I was initially skimming this card and looking at the odds and saying, okay, which spots do I want to kind of circle as a potential lock of the night play, I slapped myself a couple times thinking that Gina Mazany was going to be the spot, because this card throughout is very closely contested in every single matchup. And I felt like the skill difference between Mazany and Priscilla Cachoeira was large enough for me to justify a bet on her. But after running the tape, even though she looked great in the Rachel Ostovich fight, she's still getting hit. She's still getting clipped. And it's not that long ago that we've been seeing her get hit by big shots. And I'm not trying to compare Cachoeira to Julia Avila or Macy Chiasson, but the one thing that Cachoeira has is big power and big power in her hands. Not the most technical, but if she wings those shots and lands right on that button, Mazany still seems like that fighter that will probably shell up, go into a position that just allows Cachoeira to just wing shots on her and possibly get a standing TKO or something like that. That scares me. That possible scenario scares me. I think the only thing to really play here would be Mazany decision, if you truly believe that she goes out there and gets the takedowns and keeps on top of Cachoeira. Or Cachoeira by KO plus 600. I would personally be very surprised if we see Cachoeira win a decision here. I think Mazany will win the minutes. I think she'll get the takedowns. I think she'll get the control time. But it's just, is she going to be able to keep Cachoeira down? This isn't Valentina Shevchenko we're getting for fucking Gina Mazany, right? And even in the Luana Carolina fight, we saw very little of them on the ground. But it seemed from what we saw, Cachoeira was able to buck her off and get back to her feet. And I can see her doing that here against Gina Mazany, who still going into that third round against Rachel Ostovich, fucking slouched over, so tired. James Cross almost slaps her, hey, fucking look at me. And she's like, okay, what do I need to do? If you guys also remember before during the Lena Landsberg fight, when she was running at 135 pounds, going into that third round, she's almost dry heaving into a bucket because she's so fucking tired. Now down at 125, she looked great on the scales, just as she did the first time she made the weight. It seems like James Cross is doing what James Cross fucking does, especially with fighters around this type of skill set. I trust him enough to give her the game plan that she needs to go out there and implement it and take her down and just grind her out. But it's just those instances when the fight is on the feet and Cachoeira potentially lands one of those big bombs. She's going to be hard to put away. But if she lands one of those big bombs on Gina Mazany here, I could absolutely see the quit and possibly Gina Mazany just shelling up and taking a TKO loss there. But ultimately, I'll go with Mazany. I'll go with her to win this fight by decision. I can't trust Cachoeira. At most, I'm just going to be sprinkling a little bit on that plus 600 KO line, because I think that is a little bit of a ridiculous line, considering as I think that's the only way that Cachoeira actually wins this fight. Pick for me is going to be Mazany via decision. Adam, how are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I feel kind of the same way as you. I think she should probably grind it out here, but man, so many question marks about her. Guys, I mean, just that fight with Avila, man, the way she shelled up, getting punched in the face, like Cachoeira definitely could do that in the first round. So for me, it's like I would never lay minus 200 Gina Mazany. I mean, that's just a bad
asking for
bet.
trouble.
Yeah, that's a bad bet. That under 2.5 at plus 210 is definitely tempting, though. I would say, guys, because I think a finish could happen in this fight. I think the Cachoeira could get tired. Mazany could pound her out late. Maybe I don't know if it might come over the 2.5, but I do think there's a chance this fight does end in a stoppage. And Cachoeira could win obviously by knockout too. So for me, I would still pick Mazany to win this fight, but based on the line, it's probably dog or pass. So I can definitely see why you guys would be interested in that dog money too.
Yeah, I don't blame you at all. This is, again, very sketchy, especially the two big favorites that we have on this card.
Mhm.
How much can we truly trust them, right? All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Andrea Lee going up against Antonina Shevchenko. A heavy love for Andrea Lee throughout fight week. I would say it's more odds based as well too. Not to mention, Antonina Shevchenko opened up at -195, getting steamed down to -125. A lot of people love Andrea Lee. I know one person in particular really likes Andrea Lee on this panel, and obviously we'll get around to them. But AJ, I'll let you kick this one off. How are you feeling about this matchup?
Well, but I will say I like Andrea Lee's style. Entertaining girl to watch. Comes to fight. Solid Muay Thai striking. On the other side, though, you have like elite level Thai boxing. You have the team around her. I mean, Valentina, her sister's the Valentina being the world champion. Her sister Antonina here in a spot that really pushes her towards contendership with the win. I don't know the exact rankings matchup here, but Andrea Lee at one point was talked about as a contender. I mean, some disappointing losses. The Roxanne fight in the last one, I was really not crazy about her performance. I feel like Shevchenko, technically more sound with her Muay Thai. Defensive grappling good enough to deal with Lee's offense. If Lee even looks to get this fight to the ground, primarily more so going to see her in entertaining striking battles. I think decision win, Antonina Shevchenko. That's the pick that I like in this one. Do I want to bet women's MMA, especially on this one being this close at -125? Not terrible value here. Earlier in the week, as you said, the -190, there was no way. I was trying to find any way to pick Lee. But now that the odds have come closer, I'm going to ride Shevchenko. I think that she gets a win here. Hard-fought decision.
Yeah, again, when I was looking at this pre-research and all that type of stuff, Shevchenko was another one that I kind of circled pre-tape, thinking that she could possibly be one of my big plays. But after running the tape, I'm just not convinced. I still think she ends up getting the win. Don't get me wrong. But defensive grappling, like AG talked about, I think it's improving, but I still think it's a little bit of an issue. We've truly only seen it exploited in the Roxanne Modafferi fights and the Chookagian fight. We didn't know Chookagian had that in her. Everybody expected her to go out there and do the Chookagian thing to win that fight, but she just put on her fucking wrestling singlet and just took Antonina Shevchenko to town that night. But I think Andrea Lee just has the same types of issues grappling wise, defensively speaking. I think she might be slightly more reliable, but even with that said, just watch the Roxanne Modafferi fight last time around. And then again, we're not getting Roxanne Modafferi with Antonina Shevchenko. Say what you want about Roxanne and how she fights, and she's past her prime, all that type of shit. I don't even know if she ever had a prime to begin with. But with that said, I still find it hard to believe that Antonina will be as successful as Roxanne. I think that this should be a striking battle, and there is the concern that Andrea Lee's volume could possibly get her the W here, or I think that the more damaging shots will eventually come from Antonina, and that could actually end up swaying the judges. Or the last thing that scenario I'll play out, it depends on who goes out there and grapples, right? I think that both girls have issues in that defensive grappling, like I spoke about. And whoever wants to attack the grappling first probably ends up winning that round. I don't see a finish happening. I don't see a submission happening either way. I think they're quite defensively sound on that side. But in terms of their grappling, getting taken down, and bad timing, especially for Andrea Lee in that fight with Lauren Murphy, where she's doing great, winning fucking 4 minutes of the round, and then she gets taken down with 40 seconds left, and that sways the judges enough to end up giving that fight to Lauren Murphy. I thought that out of the 3 fights that she's lost, that fight, Andrea Lee should have won that fight. Hands down. I thought she deserved to win that fight. The Joanne Calderwood fight, very close. Can't say much about that one. And then the Roxanne Modafferi fight, right? That was a night where I fucking absolute horrible move on my end. I parlayed her and fucking Julia Avila, who both ended up losing. Roxanne Modafferi beat Andrea Lee, and then Sarge Eubanks ended up beating fucking Julia Avila that night. So horrible square shit on my end that night. But yeah, defensive grappling. I think that's going to be the story of this fight. I'm ultimately going to go with Shevchenko again. I think she's just cleaner on the feet. The volume might be a little bit of an issue on the Lee side, but I do think that we'll see Shevchenko land the better strikes here and hopefully implement the grappling in at least 2 of those 3 rounds and be successful with it. Adam, how are you feeling about this one? Value on the slight dog on Lee, or do you like Shevchenko?
Yeah, it's definitely a close fight for sure. I do lead towards Shevchenko a little bit, and it's only because of the last fight with Lipsky where I did see the improvements in the grappling. She looked great in that fight. So she said she's training her ground game and her wrestling, her submissions. I tend to believe her. Obviously, she's a great athlete. And, I think we kind of forget how good of a striker she really is. Like, she's a decorated Muay Thai striker. So I feel like if this fight stays staying, which I think it will for the most part, I just don't think Lee is the greatest fight IQ. And I feel like she should just wrestle in this fight, but she'll make it more hard for herself than it has to be and stay in the feet too much. So it's an interesting fight because the judges will probably get involved, guys. We got to mention this. We're in Texas. And the last time we were in Texas, there was 4 split decisions out of the 7 fights. And one of the other fights was Jones beating Reyes, which was highly controversial. So this does seem like one of those fights that will probably go to the judges, and we could get a sketchy decision. So I'd be a little bit afraid of holding a ticket possibly in this one. But anyways, I got to pick someone. It's going to be Anthony Shevchenko. I do think she probably wins the decision. I just think she is the better striker, and hopefully the improvements in the grappling hold up here, and she can stifle the takedowns and keep it standing and win the decision. That's what I'm thinking happens.
All right, Legs, hold the fort for club and sub. I know I'm pretty sure all of you guys are on Lee here. How do you think she wins this fight? How do you think she matches up with Shevchenko? And obviously props to you guys for getting the line that you guys were able to get. How are you liking Lee in this fight?
So to begin with, I thought the line was bad shit. Weird. -195 is crazy. I think that was just the line value, just based on name, Shevchenko, whatnot. But I have a unit and a half on her +152. I think the striking is actually pretty close. I would actually favor Lee probably in the output. If it stays on the feet 15, obviously I wouldn't like to stay on the feet for 15, but I think it's pretty close. Obviously, you touched on it a lot with the grappling edge. I think Lee's should be grappling from the start here if she was smart. I really don't think that the last fight for Lipski really, shoot up the holes in Shevchenko's game, because Lipski isn't that good of a wrestler, really. Whereas Andrea Lee averages 4 takedowns per 15 minutes at a 45% accuracy. I think she lands one round. It's probably a round, and she could win the decision here. I know the line's down to +105 for Lee money line, but Lee decision, so I think +160, +170. So I like that for sure.
Yeah, this is a fight where it's almost nonsense to play the money line on either side, right? Like I'd be very shocked if you see a finish on either side. So you might as well juice up those odds a little bit more by taking the decision props. I absolutely see the approach that you're taking, your Legs, and I don't blame you for it. Could be a close fight. And we'll see how it plays out. But you are on an island here right now with that Lee pick.
And not to mention, not like I usually play with this kind of like narrative, but we talked about it a little bit, like the what ifs. What if Calder, she would have won the Calder fight? What if she would have won the Lauren Murphy fight? Is Lee sitting here at +150, +105 even now? She's probably -150. And then I guess not to mention real quick, we're back in Houston. We got fans, whatnot. Andrea Lee's from Texas.
Yeah.
If it's a close decision, that's not obviously not why I played Lee here.
Of course.
Again, just a narrative.
Yeah, Adam was kind of hinting at that narrative as well, too. She kind of got screwed last time they were in Texas, right? But if I'm not mistaken, Lauren Murphy was training out of Texas as well. Yeah. But if I'm not mistaken, isn't Lauren Murphy originally from Alaska? They did their Texan wrong, I think. But regardless, they're both training out of Texas, or they were training out of Texas at that point in time. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Jamie Pickett going up against Jordan Wright. Dead even, pick 'em odds right here. I'll kick this one off for you guys. I want no part of this fucking fight. Like, a lot of people are just on the auto fade Jordan Wright mode, and I don't think that Jamie Pickett is necessarily the guy that you want to go out there and fade Jordan Wright with. I'm still picking Jamie Pickett to win this fight, don't get me wrong, but it's just his lackadaisical approach at times and his ability to just kind of let his opponent set the pace and set the tone of the fight. Just as there's a reason he was a Contender Series vet for as long as he was, right? It's so weird to call somebody a Contender Series vet. I believe he had 3 fights over there and then finally cracked into the UFC with his last win. But the Tafon and Chookagian fight, right? Like his UFC debut. I'm not saying that Tafon is a complete bust after his last performance against Jun Young Park, but it shows that if you're the one that's able to set the pace and you kind of take the fight into your own hands, you can make Tafon really work and almost not break him, but at least win some rounds off of him. Jamie Pickett seemed happy to just be in there with Tafon and just to be happy to be in the UFC. And he let him take the pace. He let him set the pace. He let him, fight the fight that Tafon wanted to, which is why I thought Jamie Pickett ended up losing that fight. If we get that Jamie Pickett that just turns on that switch like he did in the Jonathan Patti fight in that second round and just fucking goes buck wild and just goes move forward and lands on the chin of Jordan Wright, I think he can put him out. I do think that Jordan Wright truly has some durability issues. I don't like what I see from his chin, but we do have to still say what we see regarding Jordan Wright's game, which is he is explosive, he is athletic, he has some power in his hands, he's kind of quick, so he does have some good things on his game, right? But everybody just wants to focus on the fact that his combined opponents on the regional scene were like 0-36 or some shit like that, right? Like something ridiculous. The king of can crushing is what we used to call him when we saw him come on The Ultimate Fighter and then get starched by Anthony Hernandez, right? Like literally the first time he fights a quality opponent, he gets starched. And that's why he's kind of the laughingstock of the MMA community. I think he has a decent enough chance to win this fight, but I'm not trusting him, nor am I really trusting Jamie Pickett with much of my money. I'm going to go Pickett by KO, probably second round. just with very, very little confidence here. I would not be surprised if we see Pickett not push the pace. I wouldn't be surprised at all if Jordan Wright just kind of picks him apart from the outside, stays away enough from those big shots, and ends up either knocking him out his own in the second or third round here, or picking up a decision. And last thing I'll say about Jamie Pickett, quite durable, right? That's my concern in terms of why I don't want to back Jordan Wright here. If we've seen Jamie Pickett get finished over and over again in his last several fights, or even in the regional scene, I'd probably play Jordan Wright by KO if I'm being honest. But he's not. He seems durable. He takes some big shots from Tafon, taking some big shots from Jonathan Batty, big punchers that he's been able to survive and still keep chugging forward, which is why ultimately I'm going to go with Jamie Pickett by knockout, probably second round. Adam, how are you feeling about this one?
Man, I mean, flip a coin, guys. I mean, literally, right? Like this fight is, damn. I mean, it's a tough one to pick for sure. I love it from DraftKings. I should say that. I mean, I think the winner scores very highly in DraftKings. Definitely a first round. I feel like there's a first round knockout coming in this one, or maybe a submission too, possibly. Because you know what, watching Wright, like I agree with everything you said about striking and everything. But I was kind of impressed by his ground game a little bit more than I thought. I know he's beating some guys that were not very good competition, but Pickett, to me, has not looked very good in the ground, getting submitted by Charles Byrd. And I don't know, man. I don't think his ground game is that great. So I wouldn't be surprised even if Wright did submit him. That's kind of why I'm leaning towards Wright, because I feel like he does have more paths to victory here, and he is the younger guy too, so should make some more improvements. Pickett doesn't really seem like a UFC caliber fighter. I'm not sure if Wright is, but I'm going to pick Wright here, guys, by first round stoppage. I don't have a ton of confidence in it. I wouldn't be surprised if he got put out quickly either. So, but that's the way I'm thinking in this one, Wright by stoppage.
With every passing fight, I feel so much better that everybody feels just as stumped about this card as I do, and no real confidence on some of these fights where I just can't put any confidence together. Legs, how are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I'm with him here. Flip a coin for the winner here, to be honest. I think both of these guys aren't UFC caliber, and I think I touched on it on Wednesday on our pod a little bit. Whoever thinks bites down on the mouthpiece here, pushes the pace in this fight, is going to be the winner, is going to find a finish likely. But yeah, pass from a betting perspective. Don't put your money on this.
If we had a little bit more confidence in Jordan Wright's chin, I think you could possibly pass him as a UFC caliber type fighter, right? The guy has all the athletic abilities and, the flashiness and all that type of stuff, but it seems like if somebody touches his chin, the guy just goes night-night. So if he can distance himself from those knockout losses, maybe he'd be a little bit more reliable and then would finally cross that line and say that he's actually UFC caliber. AJ, are we too harsh on these guys? Do you have a strong read on either side here?
I mean, at the end of the day, you look at the Beverly Hills Ninja, that Contender Series fight. When he got touched with one punch by Anthony Hernandez, who's decent on the feet, but let's be honest, he's known for some nasty submissions. He choked out a high-level black belt in jiu-jitsu, just his last fight. Off the top of my head, can't remember the name, but amazing performance. Boom, the Vieira. That fight right there was impressive. And now you look at Jordan Wright, one touch on the feet, right? The striking level was a clear difference. You put Wright now in there against a guy like Jamie Pickett, who's by no means a world beater, by no means a kickboxing champion, but at the end of the day, decent chin, went the distance with Chookagian, who's a brick of a human being. At the end of the day, yeah, sure, he is a brick, honestly, because he's not the fastest. He's one of the slower fighters that I've ever seen. And I like Chookagian. I'm a fan. But for me here, you can't bet Jordan Wright. I could not feel comfortable having that guy have any of my money with the chin I've seen out of him. Ike Villanueva, the cut, stopped the fight. I think if that fight goes into the next round, Villanueva knocks him out. As long as Pickett goes out there and puts a little bit of a pace and doesn't just get tentative sitting back and letting Jordan Wright, who's very offensively sound with his karate-esque kickboxing, I got Pickett knocking him out. But at the end of the day, we're going to lean you towards either bet a sprinkle on the prop knockout or just fade the bet totally, because Jamie Pickett is not high level and neither is Jordan Wright here. We'll see what happens when the cage door closes. Going to be riding Pickett, though.
A prop that I really like for this fight actually is the fight won't start round 3 at -125. I think that's a pretty solid spot there. I think the over-under set at 1.5, just get us that extra 2.5 minutes and you still get a decent line. I think that's a solid approach here. Last thing I'll say about this matchup, shout out to Anthony Hardonk. Unfortunately for him, his star pupil is Jordan Wright, and not the guy that you really want to beat down too much. If I'm not mistaken, Anthony Hardonk's like training a bunch of Hollywood stars and all that stuff. I believe Daniel Sarafian used to do that as well out there in LA. But yeah, shout out to Anthony Hardonk. I'd be remiss if I didn't actually mention that legend over here. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Mike Grundy against Lando Vannata, another fight that just has me scratching my head so much here. We got -115 on Mike Grundy, plus 105 or -105 on Lando Vannata. Adam, I'll let you kick this one off, buddy.
Yeah, it's an interesting fight, especially because Vannata is dropping down, right, to 145. That makes it intriguing. But I think stylistically, I still have to like Grundy in this fight, guys, because I do like his grappling, man. Even the last fight against Evlov, obviously couldn't really hold him down, but the fact he got 6 takedowns is impressive against a guy like that. I think if he can get some takedowns here, he probably has a better chance of holding down Vannata, who Bobby Green had a lot of success holding down. And again, he looked good in scale, Vannata. I get him that. Both guys look good in the scale, but I'm still wondering about the cardio for the first time coming down to 145. So I have more question marks about Vannata here. I do favor Grundy as the better grappler. And I do think he probably wins a decision. That's kind of what I'm looking at in this one, guys.
Big fight here in terms of the weigh-ins, right? Lando Vannata going down to 145 pounds. Thought he looked great. Did you see anything else, Legs, or do you agree that he thought looked pretty good on the scales there?
No, yeah, thought it was pretty good.
And how do you see this fight going?
Yeah. So I mean, I slightly lean Grundy as well. I think likely gets the takedowns, the top control, and decision here. I'm not too sure to say like he has cardio to do that for 15 minutes against Lando, and not to mention if this stays on the feet longer than I expect it to. I don't think Mike's output is that good on the feet. I think Lando could potentially sway the judges, maybe steal a couple rounds. I think we might actually get a pretty close decision, as we see in the odds -110 apiece. But yeah, slight lean to Mike, but no real confidence.
I feel like a lot of people are giving Mike Grundy some rub here, considering the first round that he had against Movsar Evloev. But yeah, I'm a big Movsar Evloev fan. Don't get me wrong. But I will say this: his takedown defense isn't the greatest. His get-up ability is what's really good about him. And obviously, he has a strong offensive wrestling game himself. But still, credit to Mike Grundy for having that success that he did in that first round. I don't know if our guy Evloev has a third lung or he has gills somewhere on his body or something like that. How he survived that fucking dart stroke is beyond me. AJ, you liking Lando here, or are you on the Grundy side as well?
So I'm actually a guy that I thought Lando had a ton of potential as a fighter and whatnot, but he kind of hasn't lived up to it. All his fights are fairly competitive. Granted, he's a few finishes here and there and himself getting finished by Ferguson, but I feel like in this matchup with Grundy, Lando from the outside can be effective with his creative striking and whatnot, but the wrestling threat is going to be something that's really going to stifle his offense. You get in close. Mike Grundy's a Britishman. Have you ever met a British fighter without hands? They can box. Every one of them can box. Mike Grundy can box fairly well. I think that Mike Grundy works towards a hard-fought decision, but I have a crazy feeling. I don't know why. Maybe we see a draw here, a guy with 2 draws. Maybe you sprinkle the draw with a couple bucks. The odds are pretty crazy. So I'm going to be riding with Grundy decision. Fight goes the distance is another decent one to play, but the odds are going to be minus some solid money. Maybe you bet a little drip on the draw there. Something crazy. I don't know. Maybe.
You cheeky bastard, bringing up the draw. Why would you? On a card like this, I wouldn't be surprised if we get a fucking draw. But yeah, I'm on the Grundy train here too. I think his wrestling is going to be a little too much for Vannata to happen. And AJ, I think everybody was on the boat with you in terms of thinking that Vannata was going to have a much higher ceiling than what we've been seeing from him in the UFC so far, especially after that performance against Tony Ferguson on short notice. With that said, though, I think that Grundy's going to take him down time and time again. I think he's going to grind him out there. He's another guy that I have slight concerns about his gas tank issues in the third round, but I just don't think that Lando Vannata has that viciousness about him anymore to actually go after the kill and try to exploit somebody like that. He could prove us wrong this weekend, right? I didn't even recognize him when he stepped on the scale this morning. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? That's Shane Burgos, right? And then we fucking see him like smiling at the scale. I'm like, oh shit, that's Lando. God damn. The guy seems to make some serious changes, haircut, beard, all that type of shit. And not to mention, he's looking really, really good down there at 145. So let's see how that actually affects him in the cage. Again, physically speaking, he looked amazing on the scale. So hopefully it doesn't impact him too much in terms of having to cut that extra 10 pounds. But yeah, Grundy, very reliable takedowns. I believe he's going to be very successful with that here. The one thing that stands out to me a little bit too much for Vannata as of his recent fights, Mark Diakasey taking him down 4 or 5 times. That just doesn't sit well with me, right? Like, again, say what you want about Diakasey. The guy's mainly a striker. And yeah, you're a mixed martial artist at the end of the day. But to be giving up takedowns to that guy, especially considering you have a wrestling background of your own, where the fuck is that? You know, I mean, that's nowhere to be found, apparently, especially in this MMA game. So we'll see what happens with Lando, but ultimately I'm going to be going with Grundy here. I'll go with Grundy via decision as well. All right, that brings us to our prelim headliner here. Liking that we're rifling through these as well too. Goddamn, 40 minutes in, and we're already at the prelim headliner. I like it. All right, Cachoeira Souza against Andre Muniz. A lot of love here from Cachoeira, it seems, but the line still relatively close. -125 for Cachoeira, plus 115 for Andre Muniz. And Legs, I believe you have a play here, and I'll also let you kick this one off, buddy.
Yeah, so similar to the last lead I had with Souza here, I think this line's pretty crazy too. That Cachoeira is still sitting around -120. I think that he has Muniz pretty much covered everywhere. I think striking wise, I think he's higher output, power on the feet. I think he could take down Muniz fairly easily, and Muniz, likes to play off of his back. He's that guard player, and I think Jacare has obviously the much better grappling here. He's not going to get subbed from bottom, and then cardio. I don't think Muniz has the best cardio here. So it's like, to me, originally I wasn't looking to play Souza. I know a lot of people are going to play that wash and not narrative from the last of Kevin Holland, but throwing that out, he's been mostly competitive these last few years with high level competition. So I think pretty crazy. It's a pretty low step down in competition here with Muniz, and I just don't see any advantage. How does Muniz win this fight? Is he going to out grapple Jacare? I don't think so. So I think Jacare likely wins it, and I think he could find a finish here.
I like it. I like that approach. I'm not a big guy on Andre Muniz, especially when he did not allow me to cash my under 2.5 ticket with him and Antonio Araujo. That was such a head scratcher, considering that both of these guys have been finished by the other guy's strength, right? 4 knockout losses for Andre Muniz, and obviously Antonio Araujo getting subbed a couple times on the regional scene. AJ, how are you feeling about this one? You like the old man, 41-year-old Jacare Souza, or do you think 31-year-old Andre Muniz actually pulls off the upset here?
Well, at the end of the day, I always, when it's a 40 or over fighter, I give my viewers a warning. Like, hey, he's 40 or over. I mean, a lot can change. You can be looking like a world beater at 40, and then 41, you look like you're finished. You're ready to go sit on the couch. I don't think that's the case with Jacare Souza. He got caught in a weird situation with Kevin Holland.
Weird.
Before that, Jan Blachowicz split decision. Let's be honest, he had a better performance than Israel Adesanya did against the champion in Jan Blachowicz. That's something of value. I'm not saying MMA math works here, but Muniz is not good with his hands by any means. Decent kicks, power advantage, Jacare, boxing skill set, Jacare. And let's be honest, Jacare is known as a great grappler. The guy has legit knockout power, has put out some fighters before, 2 knockouts over Derek Brunson. I think we're going to see Jacare Souza win by knockout here. Second round, Muniz sloppy boxing, decent kicks, but at the end of the day, Jacare is going to get in his face, get inside. He's not fearful of the grappling at all here. He gets a finish. Second round knockout.
I love the confidence there for my guy AJ. I'm right there with you. I think Jacare is definitely a very good spot, especially considering what his odds are currently at. But yeah, I'd like to finish as well. I think Jacare by KO earlier in the week was around plus 500. Now it's plus 360. I know Cody last night I'm propping you up. I actually liked him by decision. One thing I'll say about Cody, just like me though, I'm an unders guy. I'm a violence guy. For some reason, I seem to lean the violence more often. Not he seems to lean overs and decisions more often. But this is a spot that I could definitely see a finish, considering that I don't think that Andre Muniz is that high level, right? The Antonio Araujo decision. Araujo is not that great either, right? We've definitely been seeing that, especially like that Duran Win fight. Like, what the fuck was that? Probably the most comical stare down we've ever had in UFC history in terms of size, and still goes out there and gets beat the way that he gets beat. Not a really good look on his end. Regardless, stylistically speaking, right? Andre Muniz is not a great striker. Decent kicks, like AJ was saying. Questionable cardio. And this narrative of Jacare being glass chin, I think, is just being extremely overblown because of that mean KO last time around with Kevin Holland, right? I was on Jacare that night. That one was so surprising to me, considering what happened. And not to mention, we saw what happened to Kevin Holland in his next 10 fucking rounds that he fought in his next 2 fights, and gets grapple fucked pretty much throughout them. And I expected Jacare Souza to do the same thing here, considering he was probably the best jiu-jitsu player out of all those, the two other guys that Kevin Holland ended up losing to. But yeah, Jacare Souza, again, such a killer, so vicious on the feet. If you guys remember the Kelvin Gastelum fight, the 3rd round, he's just stalking him the entire time. It seemed like Gastelum almost wanted a way out, to be honest, and he was hitting him with some big shots, and he could make a case that Jacare actually deserved to win that fight. So very, very close fight there. 41 years old, say what you want about that. That's always a little bit of an asterisk, but I do think the way that they match up here, it's in favor of Jacare. Somebody in the comments section, don't remember who it was, but they said the UFC is giving him a cookie here, and I almost tend to agree with him here. So yeah, out of all the closely lined fights on this card, I do think that Jacare is a very solid spot here, and you're getting some good value on him. So I'll go with Jacare, and I'll echo your sentiments as well. Probably first or second round, TKO, ground and pound, or on the feet. Adam, are you resonating with us, or are you like Muniz here?
I feel like I'm on an island because I'm on the other side in this one, guys. Like,
all right, give it to us.
I you know what? I have a lot of success fading 40+ fighters, especially when there's an age gap of 10+ years like there is in this fight. This is a system play for me, guys. So I'm taking Muniz. I mean, obviously Jacare matches up well with him, and it's like hard to see that path to victory, but I still feel like he's going to find a way to win this fight somehow. I don't know if it's going to be a knockout, maybe surprise on the feet, Muniz, or maybe just out grapples Jacare, but I fade these guys every week, all these heroes of ours in the past, Cerrone last week, Benavidez, Weiland, all these guys. I know Jacare is a great fighter, and I love the guy, man. He's one of my favorites of all time, but I fade 40-plus fighters, guys. Like, all the 40-plus fighters are losing right now. Marion Renault, Alexei Olenek, Fabricio Verdum, all the 40-plus guys lose, guys. And I know Jacare's maybe still got this one, but for me, it's a fade on a guy being 40-plus, coming off a bad knockout loss, coming off 3 straight losses, and against a guy who I think he's a little better than you guys are giving him credit for, Muniz, but we'll see tomorrow night. I mean, I could be completely wrong on this one, but it is a fade on me for Jacare, and I'll take Muniz.
Don't fade the system if the system is working out for you. So I don't blame you at all, Adam, in terms of
doesn't work
approach.
every time, man. I mean, like McDessie versus Bahamondes, like that was one had a lot of advantages, but it obviously didn't work out. But typically it does work, especially with the 40-plus guys. Like, Chason versus Renault was one recently. I love that spot. You know what I mean? Because of that age gap. It's another fight. Even Ferreira and Verdum, that was a good spot because of the age gap, right? So it's something I always kind of look at. It's just anything 40-plus, I can't bet on anymore, So that's for me.
I like it. All right. Go ahead, Lex.
My thing there real quick, I guess, would be that Jacare's only had one bad performance with Kevin Holland versus like Cerrone's had like 5, 6 now. We've seen fights where it's kind of dragged out. So I don't think it's, I think we're riding off Jacare a little too harshly. A lot of people are.
The last thing I'll also say about it in terms of that glass turn, I didn't really go into that narrative too much, but obviously Kevin Holland knocks him out last time. Last time he got knocked out before that, 2017 by Robert motherfucking Whitaker. Before that, 2009 by Gegard motherfucking Mousasi. And then even before that, way long ago before that, right? So I think that glass turn narrative is just being a little bit blown up too much, especially considering like the fatality-esque type finish that Kevin Holland got him in the last time around. It did not look good. Let's be honest, right? All right, let's move on to the main card here. And I do want to take this time to thank all the 250-plus live viewers that we currently have. Shout out to you guys for coming out and hanging with us on this Friday night. I obviously am Manpreet Jazz, aka MMA Lock of the Night, and MMA LOTN on Twitter. We got my guy Adam Martinson to my right on your screen. You guys can follow him at Adam Martin on Twitter. We got my guy Legs from the Club and Sub podcast. You guys can follow him at Legs_the Capper, and obviously find him on the Club and Sub podcast every Wednesday night with the fellas over there. And then we got probably one of my new favorite guys, AJ DeVito, down there. I believe his tag is AJ MMA Experts on Twitter, so make sure you guys go check him out. And obviously his YouTube channel too. All their links to their Twitter pages are in the description below, so make sure you guys go send them some love. And obviously make sure you guys hit that like, hit that subscribe if you guys are enjoying the show tonight. All right, let's get to the main card here. First and foremost, we got a banger, fellas. Shane Burgos versus Edson Barboza. What a way to start off a card, considering like the co-main event and main event that we have in store as well. We do have a little bit of a break with the next 2 fights, but this one I'm very much looking forward to. So much heat on this freaking fight. Shane Burgos obviously stretching as a bigger favorite now, right? Throughout the week, he was hovering around that -130, -120 line. Now he's up to -150. People liking what they're seeing from Shane Burgos as of late. +140 on Edson Barboza, making featherweight for the 3rd time, and seems to be deteriorating every time he makes that walk to the scale. AJ, I'll let you kick this breakdown off. Who are you liking in this matchup of amazing strikers?
With the deterioration, man, you got me nervous when you said it, but it is true. At the end of the day, cutting that much weight, he's not a spring chicken by any means. He's not necessarily out of his prime, but it's towards the end of the line for Edson Barboza. The title shot has escaped him for many years. Shane Burgos is an excellent striker, kickboxing style, trains with Tiger Schulman. Those guys are all savages out there. But I will say, hands down low against a guy as technically sound as Edson Barboza, I believe he's going to read counters, look to set up shots from the outside. I do think Burgos has his fair share of moments here. I think we are in for an action-packed fight, but I think Edson's going to think, hey, I got to be technical and stay on the back foot here. We've kind of seen a lot of that at 45. He's been just a lot more back foot heavy, fighting more technically. Hasn't been getting finishes. It's escaped him. Has been losing too. Hasn't been perfect here. But I feel like in this fight, he beat Shane Burgos. I think he gets a win, hard-fought decision. But am I going to bet the house on Edson Barboza? No, I'm not. I actually like the bet of this fight. Either fight goes the distance or the over 2.5 here. I will say I fear throwing more than a sprinkle down on that, just simply because you look at Shane Burgos' style. It's forward pressure and action, but he is hittable. Edson on the other side. At the end of the day, I think fight goes to the distance here. But personally, sprinkle the bet if you're going to play that. This fight can go either way. I think it's excellent matchmaking though. And if Edson wins, I want to see Yair Rodriguez, Edson Barboza, or there's some more thoughts too, or maybe Giga Chikadze, Edson Barboza. So there's a lot of big fights coming if Edson wins, but I will say legit chance that we see Burgos on the other side. Not the strongest confidence pick. Not my lock of the night by any means, but I'm riding Barboza.
I like it. I like it. This is a great fucking fight. And I'm glad that you brought the over and the fight goes to decision, because it seems like there's a couple fights on this card that could produce absolute chaos, but their fight goes to decisions are like -150, -160, and you're getting solid plus money on the unders. And it almost seems like a trap. And I'm just like, hey, you guys aren't going to get me this time. I'm not taking that plus money on Tony Ferguson and Dariush to go under, or even this fight where we got two bangers on the feet. And again, Shane Burgos gets hit a lot. We saw it in the Josh Emmett fight, gets dropped 2 times. And the fact that he even survived that fight is absolutely crazy, right? I've been harping on it all week. Josh Emmett, this guy has absolute devastating power in his hands, 10 knockdowns in 9 UFC fights, 4 of them against Felipe Aranches. God rest his soul. That guy fucking just absolutely getting beat on in that fight. And then obviously Shane Burgos taking those 2 knockdowns as well. Again, going into this fight and researching the fight, I was thinking I was going to be on Barboza too, because the last impression that I have of Shane Burgos was him getting lit up on the feet by Josh Emmett. But I just wasn't giving enough credit to Josh Emmett. And nobody gives Josh Emmett credit, right? If I'm not mistaken, he's more often than not the underdog going into his fights, and more often than not he pulls off the win and the upset. So I'll give Burgos a bit of a pass on that fight. The thing with Barboza here is, AJ was talking about he fights off his back foot. At times it's a good thing, but at times it's a bad thing in terms of not being able to be as super effective when you're being the one that's pressured. And I think that Burgos is going to be pressuring him moving forward, not letting him breathe, not letting him get his own game off. Again, those kicks come up super quick, and Burgos is definitely going to have to mind his P's and Q's when he's closing the distance and trying to getting his striking off. Not to mention with his poorest striking defense, it could cause him trouble here. But I think ultimately what breaks Barboza and what beats Barboza is a wrestle-heavy approach. Obviously, we're not going to have that here from Burgos, but also that pressure approach where fighters are able to stay in their face and not really let Barboza get his strikes off. And I think that's what Burgos does very well. Those Tiger Showman guys like AJ touched upon, absolute monsters when it comes to that Muay Thai game. Julio Arce, Jimmy Rivera, Lyman Good, these guys just time and time again go out there and put on explicit and very solid striking performances. And I'm expecting to see the same thing here with Shane Burgos. So I'm going Burgos. I'm going with the decision as well. I think a lot of people are trying to fade Barboza to the extent of thinking that Burgos will knock him out. Plus 365 is obviously the prop line on that. But again, I think it's a bit of a trap. There will eventually be the day where the weight cut starts to catch up with Barboza and it starts to affect his durability and he possibly ends up getting knocked out. Because, the guy's getting older and that weight cut's probably not getting any easier. How he even made 155 was beyond me. How the fuck is he making 145? That just blows my mind. But I don't know if this will be the fight where that chin actually ends up cracking at 145 pounds. So I'll go with Burgos by decision. And yeah, I really like Burgos in the spot. I think he kind of, I don't want to say lights him up like a Christmas tree, but I think he like fucks him up on the feet pretty bad, especially if he's able to keep that forward pressure. Adam, how are you feeling about this one?
Yeah, I agree. The forward pressure, I think, is the key to this fight. That's what Gaethje did to break him. That's what Michael Johnson did to win the decision in that fight too. So that's kind of how I feel like you can beat Barboza on the feet. He's obviously a nasty striker, and I feel like this fight will be competitive too, though. I mean, I don't think it's a walk in the park by any means for Shane Burgos. This is going to be a tough fight, hard-fought fight. I am leaning towards potentially a finish, though, guys. I do think Burgos does have the power to finish Barboza. Barboza at 145, I know he hasn't been finished yet, but maybe this is the fight because Burgos just puts that pressure on, maybe a late finish or something. Both guys look great on the scale, I thought. I know Barboza kind of had like a tougher cut, I guess, obviously because, he's a bigger dude, but both guys are big guys. It's going to be a great fight, man. Honestly, I can see a lot of things happening in this fight, guys, but ultimately, I think Burgos does get the win, and I'll take him by KO.
I feel like Barboza has a damn good poker face on that scale because inside he's just dying. He's like, why is this guy taking so long to fucking read the scale? Why does he keep tapping the fucking thing? Just tell me either I made the weight or I didn't. So let me go get a fucking drink of water or something like that. Legs, how are you feeling about this matchup?
So actually, this is my most confident bet of the card. I have Shane Burgos here at -122. I actually don't think this fight is going to be all that competitive. I think that if this fight were 15 minutes, I think that Shane Burgos is going to be much like, I don't think Edson's going to be able to compete strike for strike with Shane. Shane has a crazy output, puts a crazy pace, crazy pressure on his fights, and that's Edson's kryptonite. We've seen in the last couple of years. Adam mentioned there's a couple of guys that beat Edson, keep him on the back foot, don't let him get his game off. And that's what the thing with Shane as well. I think that close pressure style is going to limit Edson's chances to find that highlight reel finish, which I kind of think that's his main path to victory here. Like I said, I don't think if this goes to a decision, I don't think Edson's likely to keep up on numbers. So I got Shane here. I have him knockout as well at +420.
With how hittable Burgos is, that it's a little bit sketchy for me to be that confident. But again, all pressure to you. I'm not trying to talk you down from Burgos at all, right? Josh Emmett was just able to kind of, even with the pressure that Burgos was putting on him, he was the one firing, whereas I feel like Barboza probably won't end up firing. He's going to be overthinking it a little bit too much. His circuits might get crossed or something like that. And I think that Burgos would definitely go out there and put the pressure on him. All right, let's move on to the next fight here.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Lock, real quick. One last thing I mentioned. I was listening to a Burgos interview as well, just to see kind of like how he's reacting from that Emmett fight. Maybe he'll be a little more tentative, not pressure as much. But he said, keep it simple. Pressure. That's it. That's all he said. So
perfect.
Straight
to the motherfucking point.
Yep. That's all you need from him.
I love it. I love when they reaffirm the approach that you hope that they take. And that's exactly what we're going to be getting with Burgos. Maybe that's why we're seeing the line go the way that it is, because like people are just like, how is he going to fight him? Pressure, baby. This is fucking pressure. Not to
mention, I don't think Edson did look that great at scales either.
Yeah, again, I think he has a great poker face, which is why he's just like his body, like negative body fat at this point in time. How he keeps making that weight is beyond me. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. We got Katlyn Chookagian versus Viviane Araujo, minus 125 on Chookagian and plus 115 on Araujo. I believe it's back to me in terms of starting this breakdown off. I feel the way that Legs feels about Burgos, that's the way I feel about Chookagian for some reason. And I know Legs has a little bit of a play on Araujo in this spot, which is fucking hilarious. But I was an Araujo believer after she knocked out Toledo Bernardo in a UFC debut. I thought she looked great. Hands look great. She has some decent power in her hands. She moves very well. But another one that I have a little bit of a question mark regarding her gas tank. And there could be signs that she's improving it because she's been able to go the distance with Roxanne Modafferi and those last couple of fights that she was able to have. But I still feel like she slows down a little bit. And going up against a girl like Katlyn Chookagian, who in my opinion has endless cardio, I think she can go that type of style for 25 minutes if she wanted to. I think it's going to be a bad matchup for Araujo in the sense that I believe Chookagian will be first. She's going to be sticking on her jab, landing a couple leg kicks, staying on her bicycle. And then again, staying on her bicycle is very important here, where she gets out of the way of the big shots that's going to be coming her way from Araujo. I think that Araujo is going to be kind of throwing out wind or throwing out air for the most of this fight. We see it in other fights. That's how Jessica I beat Viviane Araujo. Not so much with the movement, but more so with being first. Don't let Araujo kind of compute and let her combination start getting off. Just stick a jab in her face, stick a combination in her face, and don't let her get comfortable. And that's what we know Katlyn Chookagian does. The way that I compared it last night was with on my Propping You Up show. She reminds me almost like Neil Magny, not with the grappling part of it, but just staying consistent, staying on the jab, staying on the offense, that you don't let your opponent get comfortable on so they can get their combinations off. It could be a similar situation, right? Outside of the grapple fucking or anything like that, I expect Chookagian to just stick that jab out there and just stay active enough where Araujo is going to start swinging at air. She might start to gas herself out, and then it's just going to get harder and harder to eventually land on Chookagian. I don't think Araujo has the type of power that Jessica Andrade does, so I'm not too worried about her getting a body shot KO'd or something like that. I think that's out the window. And I think Chookagian matches up very well here. We're talking about a 5-inch height advantage. They have the same reach here, but we all know, we've been around the game long enough that if you're tall enough, you can make that sticking and moving game plan work to your advantage. And that's what Katlyn is super good at. The only issue that I have on the Chookagian side here is if Araujo takes a grapple heavy approach, that does worry me a little bit. We've seen Chookagian get back to her feet, but I feel at times you can see her get stuck down there. I'm not sure how good Araujo's top game is. I'm not super impressed with it. She landed 4 takedowns against Roxanne Modafferi last time around. Modafferi was able to get back to her feet relatively easily. Maybe we'll see the same thing here from Chookagian, but that might be the main culprit in terms of the judge scoring that round for Araujo. That's the little worry that I have on the Chookagian side here. But if this fight stays vertical for 15 minutes, I'm all on Chookagian. Minus 105, plus 100 for the decision prop, I think is a beautiful line, considering that I don't see Chookagian winning this fight by finish. And the last thing I'll say, that second round, Alexis Davis, Viviane Araujo, not look good. You see Araujo just not able to get back to her feet at all. If Chookagian goes out there and tries to take a grapple-heavy approach, one, I think she'll struggle to get Araujo down, who seems to be shoring up her takedown defense. She has great hips, great sprawl, so I don't know how Chookagian will take her down. But if she does, I wouldn't be surprised to see Chookagian and Antonina Shevchenko her, right? Like how that fight ended up going down, especially if Araujo is not able to get back to her feet. So I really like Katlyn in this spot. Everybody seems to be writing her off, considering she wants to have a family and all this other bullshit. But when it comes down to brass tacks and actually fighting inside the cage, she's going out there pulling a plus 210 upset over Cynthia Calvillo last time around. How that line was even that big, beyond me. I was more than happy to take advantage of that spot there. But this isn't Cynthia Calvillo ahead of her, right? Viviane Araujo presents different threats and different risks. And I do think that Katlyn passes this test. I think she goes out there and jabs her to death, stays active enough on the feet, produces the volume, and takes home a decision victory. So, yeah, I like me some Katlyn Chookagian is pretty much what I'm trying to say. Adam, how are you feeling about this matchup?
Yeah, I'm on the other side again, man, from you in this one. I like Araujo in this fight, guys. I think it's going to be a competitive fight, obviously. I do see it going distance, but I just think she's really nasty on the feet. I think she's the better striker. I don't think Chookagian's grunting is just going to win her decision. I mean, it could with the judges, but I just think Araujo's going to have better combinations, do more damage. I think there is a chance she could knock her out to the body too. I don't like the fact she got knocked out with that punch to the body. That's bizarre, and I feel like this girl could knock her out with I shouldn't say girl. She's 34. She's older than me. I mean, she's a veteran of the sport, guys. She's not a prospect. It's her time to shine. She's 34. She's ready to go, and I think the biggest thing for me was how is her grappling and watching her fights back. She has good grappling too. So for me, I don't think Chookagian's that great of a fighter. Honestly, I know she's able to win these decisions, but never seen a lot of finishing ability. Obviously, that's what we'll see out of Araujo possibly in this fight too. I just, the cardio obviously is a concern, and fight probably goes the distance. But I do think she can win probably first round for sure, and maybe the second round too, and win the decision. So I like her at plus money here, and that's my pick, Araujo by decision.
I like it. Chookagian, another thing that we will say, she required the box of shame this morning, but it seemed like a lot of fighters needed it for some reason with that half pound. I'm not sure what it was, but as soon as they dropped them undergarments, they were able to make their limits of their divisions. I thought they all looked great on the scales. Vivi looked great. I thought Katlyn looked great. In terms of stylistically how they match up legs, what's your argument as to why you think Araujo is going to win this fight?
Not only box of shame for Katlyn Chookagian on scales, but did you see her Twitter earlier too?
She got fucking raided, dude. That was hilarious.
But no, I mean, I echo points similar to Adam. I think on the feet, Vivi can keep up with the output. I think she lands the hardest strikes, and I think the grappling. I think Vivi's got solid enough top 10 to mix in that grappling. I don't really think Chookagian can mix in the grappling on Araujo, like you touched on. I think Araujo's got solid takedown defense enough. And then if this goes 15 minutes, I mean, the grunting and a full crowd, I don't think going to sway the judges. But I think the hard shots and the grappling edge for Araujo is going to be what gets to this decision here. So I have a small play on her by decision at plus 220.
You can't touch what you can't see, guys. I think Katlyn Chookagian's not going to be there. Let's see what happens. AJ, you on my side or are you on Team Araujo as these other two guys are?
So I'm definitely not 100% as strong confidence on Araujo, but I do have to ride with Araujo slightly. But in our first interaction on Twitter, you did say something that I went back and watched. She was in trouble against Alexis Davis on the ground, controlled. That's not a good sign. Now, I do acknowledge, though, time has passed. This is an improved Araujo, and I've been impressed by her striking, explosive, athletic, and a lot of movement. To beat a girl like Chookagian, as tall as she is, you need a lot of head movement and a lot of lateral movement. I mean, you got to get inside that reach somehow. Granted, I think the reach is about the same, but the arm length is probably different. Araujo does look fairly broader, just overall her shoulder width. I'm going to go very close decision. We'll do it for Araujo. I'm not like I'm like 50-50 on it, but really I'm gonna go Araujo. I had Araujo all week. I'm not saying she's my lock of the night. I think she gets a very hard fought decision. It's competitive. It can go either way. At the end of the day, if Chookagian goes out there and wins the fight, I wouldn't say, oh man, I'm so surprised. This is a shocker. I'm gonna go Araujo, hard fought decision, but absolutely understand an argument for either fighter. And I feel like if you look at the history of Chookagian, you beat her, you're fighting for the world title. So if Araujo wins, she might be fighting Valentina Shevchenko soon.
I had higher hopes for freaking Araujo before her last couple fights in terms of how competitive she would be with Valentina Shevchenko. But after she knocked out Bernardo, I was like, oh, let's give this woman a fucking title shot. She looks great. But we've seen her career pattern a little bit, losing to Jessica. Obviously, not the greatest look, but she is making improvements. We have to acknowledge that, and hopefully we can see some more improvements this weekend from her. All right. Let's move on to the next fight. We got 3 more fights left. This one, I'm kind of skeptical in terms of the positioning on the card for this one, but is what it is. People need to go to the bathroom. I get it. Matt Schnell versus Rogerio Bontorin. Again, all jokes aside, this should be a fun fight. This should definitely be a competitive fight. Bontorin, the only one to miss a weight on the scales this morning, comes in the last guy on the scales, misses weight by 1 pound. doesn't look the greatest, let's be honest. Not to mention, you got to give the guy some flack going up a weight class and still missing weight. He's pulling a Manny Bermudez on us here. Not a good look at all. Adam, I'll let you kick this one off. In terms of odds, though, we're getting minus 155 for Schnell, plus 145 for Bontorin. How are you feeling here? You think the dog has some bite? You're muted.
Sorry, guys. I almost feel like it's like almost too easy to go with Schnell here, right? Because, Bontorin struggled to make weight. He looked a lot smaller at the stare down too. Schnell looked bigger. Schnell just fought. He's looked better recently. Bontorin, obviously, the cardio issues, the chin issues. The fact this fight's at 135, not 125, he still missed weight. That's obviously concerning. Took the fight on short notice. It's just that, I don't want to write him off too soon because he obviously does have good grappling. And I got to be honest, guys, Matt Schnell's chin still sketches me out really hard. That fight with Hector Sandoval, man, getting knocked out of those punches on the ground, that really worries me. I don't know if Bontorin can get him down, maybe get back control and pound him out. I don't know. Anyways, I gotta go with Schnell still. I still think he probably wins a decision. It's kind of like the Tyson Nam fight, but I don't know. There's something about this fight that with the weight miss too. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I hate when guys miss weight. Always it's a very extra variable when you're breaking down a fight. It's just But anyways, I gotta go with Schnell here. It's just there's something about this one that again my spidey senses are kind of keeping me away from it.
Yeah, I feel like we need to distance Schnell from those knockout losses a little bit more before we can truly be confident. I almost compared to Gavin Tucker against Dan Ige last time around. I like Tucker here. I think he wins this fight if it goes 15 minutes. But let's distance ourselves before we get crazy. And we obviously saw Dan Ige put him out, I believe, within a minute in that fight. Legs, how are you feeling about this one? You got Bontorin or you got Schnell?
I'll give you a little bit of flack here. I don't think this is a bathroom break fight. I think this is
I was being facetious, man. Come on.
I think we see a lot of violence actually in this fight.
Yeah.
I think Bontorin has definitely a chance to finish, and like Adam mentioned, he missed weight. So I thought his cardio to begin with wasn't that great. I mean, it didn't look that great with Cachoeira France last night. Grappling, heavy approach in that first round, looked pretty tired, and then now, obviously going up a weight class, missing weight, not too great. I like the under here. I think this is one of the, like you touched on earlier with the unders with the Beneil fighter with plus 150. That's enticing. Well, now it's not this fight. They opened plus 150, but now it's down to plus 105, which I would say that's an easy pass. But I think if you got in at that plus 150 for the under 2.5, I like it.
Again, this one feels like another trap spot in terms of those unders where you're expecting absolute chaos and these guys lay on each other for fucking 15 minutes, or you see Matt Schnell go out there and now point him over 15 minutes and not put too much sauce on his shots. AJ, how are you feeling about this one?
Dude, I honestly earlier on in the week was high on Bontorin. I mean, there's a lot of things to like with his offensive striking. I mean, the guy does have some amateur experience in Muay Thai and boxing, has power in the hands, hurt Cachoeira France in the first one and had his back and nearly submitted him. 11 wins by submission. You look at Schnell on the other side, 3 losses by submission. But when you go look at them at the weigh-ins, I saw a little bit of a belly on Rogerio Bontorin. Don't like that. Matt Schnell shredded to the bone. He's the taller guy, naturally just a bigger human being. Up a weight class, missing weight by a pound, to me is absolutely unacceptable. I am going to be picking Matt Schnell by a decision in this matchup. I would say it should be a fairly safe, good to go bet, just simply because, I mean, Bontorin doesn't look to have put in all that much work in camp. Now, I can't make assumptions just off him missing weight and whatnot, but you kind of have to say that's not a good look, to come in up a weight class overweight. I feel like the weight cut should have been fairly easy, not necessarily a harder one. So I think Schnell decision. I've lost confidence in Bontorin, even though earlier in the week I was thinking about betting some money down on him, but unfortunately not going to be throwing down with our boy Bontorin, going Schnell.
I think the former matchmaker Joe Silva seemed to be a little bit harsher on these guys that would miss weight and probably give them more reason to cut guys, especially if they end up losing the fight that they missed weight for. I think Mick Maynard and Sean Shelby might be a little bit softer to these guys. Not to mention there's so many, Adam knows this as well too, there's so many backstage stories about Joe Silva being a complete dickhead and an asshole and not really showing much morality per se. But this could be a fireable offense, right? You're contracted to come in on weight, a weight class above the one that you normally fight at. Why the fuck are you still missing weight? So he's obviously lost his last fight as well. That's not a good look, obviously getting knocked out by Cachoeira France the way that he did. And I think this is another spot where Matt Schnell should go out there and be able to pick him apart over 15 minutes. Now, I'm always gonna fucking kick myself for this because the last time he fought, he went up against Tyson Nam. If you guys remembered, they were originally scheduled to fight back in November or December, if I'm not mistaken. And I was all over Schnell. I was like, oh man, Schnell, as long as he doesn't get knocked silly here, he should go out there and absolutely piece up Tyson Nam, who, again, no volume from him. He always just is a head hunter. He's looking to take your head off and try to knock you out. And I'll give that to Tyson Nam, one of the bigger punches down there at the lower weight classes. But I still felt like Schnell, his boxing is tight. He's very crisp on the feet, very technical, very fast hands, ability to get in and out of the pocket very well. And I was close to betting him. Then the fight gets canceled, and then a month or two passes by, and for some reason, something in my head starts clicking. I'm like, that Hector Sandoval knockout does not look good. Like if Tyson Nam even clips him a little bit on the chin here, this guy's probably going to bed. So I end up going out there and betting fucking Tyson Nam by knockout for some reason the next time they fight. And look what the fuck happens. I get burned on my initial take. The only other time that's happened to me was when Curtis Blades and Derek Lewis were fighting, but the opposite reason. I was taking Derek Lewis to beat him the first time. Oh, he's going to knock him out. No matter how many times he gets taken down, he's going to knock him out. Then they get rescheduled. And I fully flip. I go on Blades inside the distance. I think Blades is going to take him down and just fucking pummel him. And look what happens. I get burned once again. So stick to your gut the first time is what I'm trying to say. Either way, with this one, with Schnell, I do like Schnell. I think he's going to be the better boxer. I think he stays away from the grappling. I do think that Bontorin is going to show cardio issues. He did not look good on the scales. I think it affects him a little bit, not a whole lot. But I do think it's going to rear its ugly head tomorrow night. And I do think that we see Schnell either possibly get a late finish here. Great striking, like I said, decent power in his hands. But I think he plays it safe, tries to protect that chin. Bontorin, not the greatest striker, but he does have some heavy hands, and that's something that Schnell is going to have to worry about here. But I do think that we see Schnell navigate the pocket very well here, land the better shots, and then come away with the decision victory. So I am on Schnell, but that chin does worry me a little bit. Let's distance ourselves a little bit more from those knockouts, and then I'll be a little bit more happy to take Schnell here and not motherfucking Tyson Nam like I did last time. All right, let's move on to the next fight here. Co-main event time. Tony Ferguson versus Beneil Dariush. Fucking chaos of a fight. What a tee up we have here going into the main event. Legs, I'll let you kick this one off, man. How are you liking this fight?
So first we'll talk about the press conference with Tony. It's fucking crazy, man.
God.
I think he's losing it completely, to be honest. I like Benny here a lot spot. I got Benny at -140. I think as long as if this stays on the feet, I think Benny can stay efficient enough on the feet to mix in the strikes if he can. But I think the grappling edge is obviously where his path to victory is in this fight. We saw Kevin Lee while he was still fresh, he was able to grapple fuck Tony, but got caught. And then as we saw in the last fight, Charles Oliveira, grapple fuck Tony to a decision. I think Tony, it's easy to say, oh, he's washed, this and that, but Justin Gaethje and Oliveira, elite level competition. But I think Dariush has enough here to get a decision here. So Dariush by decision. I think that's like +150 now.
All right, AJ, how are you feeling about this one? You giving Tony a bit more of a chance than my guy Legs?
I have to give my boy Tony a bit more love. I talked about it all week. I said, we'll check out how he looks at the weigh-ins, how he looks at the I wanted to see more of Tony live action. And from what I saw, a lot of crazy stuff being said, whatnot. I personally like seeing that out of Tony. When he's at his craziest, I personally think he's at his absolute best. I think Tony Ferguson, I will acknowledge Beneil Dariush offensive wrestling could pose a bit of a threat. I think we do see Ferguson potentially on his back, but Ferguson is going to be throwing off the bottom, looking for submissions. Don't necessarily think he taps out a guy like Dariush. That's very difficult to do. But I do think if Dariush obliges into some striking exchanges, if Ferguson can, be a little bit defensive with the takedowns, not look like he did against Charles Oliveira, I do think he's going to defend the takedown. I think Tony Ferguson is going to put a pace on Dariush, and I think he knocks him out in the second round. That's going to be my prediction. Tony Ferguson, the underdog knockout. Prop it up if you want to play it. At the end of the day, I had to throw in the over 35 clause. Ferguson hasn't looked great, but I'm not giving up on my boy T Ferg just yet. I got to win in this fight by knockout over Beneil Dariush. Is a great guy, and he's having his first kid. If he's watching this, congrats to him on that one. Got to love him.
But you're going to lose this fight. Yeah, man, I wish I had the balls that AJ has, because I love Tony Ferguson, right? But one of my favorite fighters, a little bit of a head case. Obviously, we even saw that way back in his Ultimate Fighter days. He was pretty much up against the entire cast, or not even guys against his team. The guys on his team didn't even like him either, but for good reason. I remember if you guys did watch that season, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it's hard for me to back Tony Ferguson after what we saw last time around, right? That absolute absence of takedown defense is just too concerning for me. I feel like Beneil Dariush coming off his win over Carlos Diego Ferreira, the way that he won that fight, chain wrestling, getting the takedowns, kind of controlling him from on top. I have a hard time seeing Tony Ferguson being able to nullify that. And we know Tony Ferguson, right? I compare him to Yuri Prochazka. I compare him to Brandon Royval. They create chaos and then they thrive in that chaos. And that's what we normally get from Tony Ferguson. But we saw how Charles Oliveira was able to control him. Like, he contained that chaos. That was absolute controlled chaos at that point in time, where Charles Oliveira was able to nullify him with just taking him down and controlling him there. I think Beneil Dariush has just as good jiu-jitsu as Charles Oliveira, which is why I think he'll be successful at that. I think Beneil Dariush is a slightly better wrestler than Charles Oliveira too, so I think that he'll be able to ground Tony Ferguson here. Now it's just, how does Tony Ferguson react off of his back, right? Is he going to be throwing up elbows like we saw in his fight against Danny Castillo, where he actually won a fight off of his back for the entirety of that 15 minutes? That could be a possibility. I do think that Beneil Dariush does start to slow down later in fights, and we know Tony Ferguson likes to pick up the pace instead of pace that most people aren't able to keep up with. So if Dariush is not able to complete those takedowns later in this fight, how's this going to look? This could look like, Tony Ferguson turning in another victim to that collage. If you guys remember that collage of all the opponents that he's faced and how he's busted their faces up. Could be another addition here with Beneil Dariush, but it's just too hard for me to see Beneil Dariush not be successful with those takedowns, taking this fight to the ground and controlling the madman, which is Tony Ferguson. I will say this one last thing about Tony Ferguson. If there is somebody to take 8 rounds of adversity the way that he did and come back from it, it's a guy like Tony, man. The guy's absolutely a nutcase when it comes to training and being the best fighter that he could potentially be. And, the Justin Gaethje fight, not a great matchup for him, considering how technical Justin looked with his hands and absolutely pieced him up that night. And then Charles Oliveira, who would have thought we'd see Charles Oliveira fight that way, right? Not to mention, Tony Ferguson was my lock of the night play that night, because I truly believed he's going to go out there and break Charles Oliveira like we've seen Charles go out there and break too. My backup was going to be the under 2.5. That didn't even hit.
I had the under 2.5.
Yeah, see, that would have been my backup lock of the night play, and that doesn't even end up cashing, because we see a very unorthodox approach from Charles Oliveira that we've never seen before. But credit to him, he knew he was in a hot spot to potentially get a title shot after that fight, so he stayed disciplined, did what he needed to do, and got the win. That could happen here with Beneil Dariush too, right? This is the closest he's ever been to a title shot. The guy's been in the UFC for years now, but this is the closest that he's ever going to get. So play that discipline game, get the takedowns, grind them out the way that you should, and hopefully you don't get knocked out doing so. And it's just a matter of time before that chin cracks, because goddamn, he eats everything and still keeps striking forward. But it's just a matter of time before that chin cracks. Is it going to be Tony Ferguson? I don't believe so. Tony Ferguson, not really a one-punch knockout kind of guy, which kind of concerns me here. But if he's able to get his punches together, his elbows together, I wouldn't be surprised to see him kind of nullify the forward pressure of Dariush, and especially that wrestling game. So pick will be Dariush, and the pick will be Dariush by decision. But inside, I'm going to be cheering for Tony Ferguson. I really want to see him bounce back and get a victory tomorrow night. Adam, I'll let you wrap this matchup up. How are you feeling about this fight? You giving Ferguson a chance, like my guy AJ, or you think Dariush rolls here?
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely got a chance for sure. I still got to go with Dariush, though. I kind of feel like you guys probably if he's smart, uses wrestling, wins the decision, right? There's something about me thinking maybe he's going to stand and trade, man. These guys are getting more. I don't know if you guys saw that news. They're getting $75,000 bonuses now tomorrow night. So maybe these guys just want to stand and trade. I hope he doesn't do that, because I feel like he should just wrestle. I think that'd be the best path to victory here. And Tony's going to make it hard even off his back, obviously. But after seeing Tony get dominated like that by Oliveira, guys, it's just hard for you to back him right now, and by Gaethje, obviously. So it's kind of a fade on Tony, but it wouldn't shock me if he did win, because it's Tony Ferguson. He's a guy who, I think for the longest time, a lot of us thought maybe he could be the guy who beat Khabib. And yeah, he's a little bit older now, but maybe he's still got one left in the tank. I don't think so, but I'm looking forward to seeing this fight. This fight's going to be awesome. I can't wait, guys.
I'm very much excited for it as well, too. If I was Beneil Dariush's manager, though, and I heard that news about the $75,000 performance bonus, I'm calling him up right away. Like, hey, $75,000 seems nice and all, but if you get that title, $75,000 is going to seem like peanuts to you. So please do not trade in the fire with the fireman himself, Tony Ferguson. So I like Dariush in this spot. Hopefully he pulls it off for anybody backing him financially. But as a fan, I think a lot of us would like to see Tony Ferguson win, especially with the trials and tribulations he's been through the last 2 fights. All right, we're right to the main event here. Shout out to the close to 300 people that we got in the chat here. Shout out to you guys for keeping it lit up in there. Not to mention everybody watching the show. Appreciate it. Like, subscribe, do all that shit. And then obviously give a follow to my guys that are joining us, Adam, Legs, and obviously AJ. Their Twitter handles are linked in the description below. So make sure you guys go click that and then click the follow, because I promise you it's definitely worth a follow. All right, let's get to the main event here. We got Charles Oliveira going up against Michael Chandler. Big matchup here to take that lightweight scrap that was left behind by Khabib Nurmagomedov. Minus 130 right now on Charles Oliveira and plus 120 on Michael Chandler. I will say the under 2.5 is now at minus 175, because I feel like some of us are going to be hitting on that prop here once we get into these breakdowns. But AJ, I'll let you kick this one off. How are you feeling about this matchup? Do you see the Bellator veteran Michael Chandler making a big splash and getting the title, or does the battle-tested Charles Oliveira end up getting his hand raised this weekend?
Well, if you guys don't know me, I'm a big Bellator fan. I like Bellator. I've been watching it a long time, but it's not necessarily just because I'm a fan of Bellator. I like a lot of things Chandler does well. I think he's one of the best fighters at getting inside of the pocket, extremely athletic, fast. And let's talk about the physique on this guy. He's a specimen. I feel like Charles Oliveira on the other side will have some technical kickboxing advantages from the outside. Rip that leg kick. It could be a problem. And if you do look, Chandler has this habit of reaching for kicks a lot. And my fear is if, Oliveira starts noticing this, he comes up high with that head kick. Could land, could be something crazy, but I think less likely. On the ground, obviously very dangerous for Chandler, but I don't think that he's going to be stupid and choose to take the fight there. I think he dictates the pace, comes forward, finds a way inside of the pocket, inside of 4 minutes, gets the knockout in the first round of Charles Oliveira. Michael Chandler, the new UFC lightweight champion. Maybe he can be the man to get Khabib to come back too.
Hey, I love the conviction from my guy AJ there. Great narrative at the end there too, with possibly goading Khabib to come back to the UFC. I'm on Chandler here too, man. I do like Chandler. I do think AJ hit all the main points here, right? Very quick, very explosive, good hands, is able to close the distance very well and land on the chin of his opponents. Obviously, getting a ton of first round knockouts in his last several fights. But Charles Oliveira, he is improving in his Muay Thai game, right? That's one aspect of his game that we've seen improve on a fight to fight basis over his 10-year UFC career. Had great leg kicks to start, but since then has put the elbows together, the punches together, the kicks, all of that has really come together. And this is the perfect time for him to go out there and get a title shot. Unfortunately for him, I think stylistically he's in a bit of trouble. The one thing I will say, defensively speaking, for Charles Oliveira, keeps his head on the center line a little bit too much. And I think that is just a prize or a pinata waiting to be bursted by Michael Chandler, who's going to be able to find it, because I do believe he's quick enough, explosive enough to close that distance before Charles realizes that punch is on his chin, and he's probably going to go lights out. The spot that I like here the most, though, is the under 2.5. It covers both chaotic outcomes, as I believe Charles Oliveira, outside of that Tony Ferguson fight last time around, but I don't think that Chandler will succeed those types of takedowns and that type of control time as easily as Tony Ferguson did. So that's why I'm a little bit more confident in the under 2.5 in this one, and not being as scared as I was after the Ferguson fight ended up finishing. I believe Chandler keeps it on the feet. I believe they go strike for strike. I believe that Chandler will land the better strikes. The leg kicks of Charles Oliveira is a little bit of a concern. We saw Dan Hooker have slight success with it. A lot of them were checked. Don't get me wrong. Chandler was definitely prepared for those leg kicks that were coming his way, but it only took like one or two before you really saw it visibly affect Michael Chandler. Luckily for him, he was able to get the knockout quickly thereafter, so it didn't affect the fight too much in that aspect. But if Charles is able to lay it on him nice and early and get those leg kicks going, he could possibly end up finding the finish with maybe a desperation takedown from Chandler, and he sticks his neck out a little bit, and Oliveira actually ends up snatching it up. But Chandler never been submitted in his career. That's one thing that you can definitely give him props for. With that said, like, grappling wise, has he ever fought anybody to the level of Charles Oliveira? I think the closest is Gyota Yamauchi, and I think we are all aware of how good Yamauchi is off of his back and with his ground game, but I still don't think it's to the level of Charles Oliveira. The last thing I'll say about this fight, Charles Oliveira, round 2 against Kevin Lee 2 fights ago, looked a little bit of a fish out of the water off of his back, right? Like Kevin Lee is in half guard, landing some good shots, staying active enough that I didn't believe that the fight needed to be stood up. Yet you see Charles Oliveira just looking up at the ref like, hey, you going to stand this up yet? Where's that black belt, bro? Where's that like jiu-jitsu that you're supposed to have when you can either retain guard or get back to your feet? And that was a really bad sign for me. And that was only 2 fights ago. And again, I nitpicked Charles Oliveira's 8-fight winning streak last night on the stream that I did last night. So I'm not going to do it again. And I had somebody comment back saying, why didn't you nitpick Chandler's resume? Obviously, you can nitpick Chandler's resume. The guy's coming from Bellator, only ever had one UFC fight. He's at the wrath of the promotion that he's in. He fought the best of the best. He came up short a couple times, right? Royal Brooks had his number 2 times in that organization. Obviously, Patricio Pitbull puts him out a couple fights ago. So he's fighting the best of there. And yeah, he might be coming up short against those guys, but stylistically speaking, this is a completely different matchup than anything that we've been seeing in the past for Michael Chandler. So I don't care who wins as long as it comes within the first 12 and a half minutes. I wish the more widely available total here was a 3.5, as I'd feel slightly more comfortable with that. But I do think that it still ends up happening probably in the first or second round. First round, Michael Chandler plus 460. Give me all of that, baby, because I think he's going to land that shot. And even if you want to get a little bit risky with it, round 2, I think it has a decent number as well. I'm just going to pull that up real quick. Chandler in round 2 is plus 675. So sprinkle a little bit of both, and I think he ends up finding the chin regardless. But that under 2.5 is what I'm going to be banking on the most this weekend. Adam, how are you seeing this matchup? And not to mention, you are muted, so there we go. Thank you.
Yeah. No, of course. Yeah, I mean, a great fight, obviously, guys. I can't wait for this one. Not the easiest fight to pick. I mean, they both have paths to victory for sure. Chandler, man, I've watched both these guys their whole careers. I saw him fight Gono at Casino Rama in 2012. Yes. So yeah, I think you were there too. So yeah, I mean, he's a guy I've been watching forever, man. I mean, I love the guy. Love Oliveira too, and Oliveira's a guy that I've been pretty good at betting against earlier when he used to quit in his fights, but he's not like that anymore, right? Like he's really turned a corner, I think. And man, watching his win streak back, while I was researching this fight again, like man, he's looked really good, guys. Like I feel like I'm going to make a bold prediction here, even though I'm not going to bet the fight because honestly, I can't see Chandler knocking out. But I'll make a bold prediction. I think Oliveira could knock out Chandler. So that's going to be my prediction in this one. I think Oliveira's Muay Thai improvements will see him knock out Chandler, but I'm not going to really bank on it. It's just the prediction I have, and I'll have more shares of him in DraftKings and stuff like that. But as far as a play, I'm going to watch this one. I can't wait for this fight, guys. But I do think Oliveira can show some striking in this fight, and I hope my prediction comes true.
I don't blame you, dude, though, because I don't think we gave enough credence to the lack of durability that Chandler has too, right? That guy can be rocked, he can be dropped, and Charles Oliveira definitely has some good snap and pop on his shots so that he can make that come to fruition for sure. The one thing I will say about the quitting narrative, I just don't feel like he's faced anybody that's required him to quit, right? Kevin Lee has a bad gas tank. Tony Ferguson couldn't do anything in terms of stopping the takedowns. If he goes up against more adversity, I think we'll see that quit come out once again. But again, it's good that we haven't seen it over 8 fights, especially against a guy like Tony Ferguson, who I thought would be able to go out there and break him legs. Bring this one home. Who are you like in Ferg Oliveira or Chandler?
I'll pick it up from that quitting narrative a little bit. In that 8-fight winning streak, there's not really a guy there to push that quitting narrative. So then to get it to the fights, stylistically, I just both stylistically and statistically favor the under 2.5, like we touched on. 18 of 27 of Chandler's fights under 2.5, 34 of Oliveira's 38 fights under 2.5. Under 2.5 minus 140. I also have Chandler KO plus 280. Like you touched on the round 1, I think that's likely possible as well. Though I think he can mix in the wrestling here. I think he can stay safe with Oliveira throwing up submissions. But I think, like I said, Chandler could largely stay safe on top if he was to grind a decision out here. But I think this fight gets finished pretty early. But from an Oliveira finishing perspective, I like Adam touched on, I think he has a chance to finish on the feet. We've seen Chandler thing before. But not to mention, I think Oliveira's submission potential here is more so on guillotine on entry of Chandler's takedowns, more so than off of his back. So that's why I think that Chandler could use that wrestle heavy approach here. But I like violence. I like violence early here.
I do think that Chandler has some pretty good submission defense awareness when he is on top of fighters. Again, the main one that we have to look at is the Gaiotti Yamauchi fight. Sidney Outlaw, a great grappler as well, but we didn't see that fight hit the ground, so you can't really say much about that. But Gaiotti Yamauchi, that's the one fight that we have to pick, or Chandler, how he does against guys that are pretty crafty off their back. But Charles Oliveira, again, completely different monster than what we're being getting from Gaiotti Yamauchi. All right. Introducing the new segment, we will be getting the lock of the night play per se from everybody that we have on the panel here. First and foremost, I'll kick things off. I haven't released my picks yet to the public, but I'm doing that right now, and I will obviously drop them on the Twitters and the Instagrams after the stream wraps up. But my lock of the night play has got to be the under 2.5 in this main event. I'm expecting absolute chaos here. I got in at minus 165, a little bit of chalk, but I don't mind it, as I do believe that Oliveira, very offensive minded, again, firecracker from the get-go. Not so much in that Ferguson fight being super disciplined, but again, I don't think that he'll have the success in terms of dragging this fight down to the ground and controlling Chandler the way that he was able to control Mr. Ferguson last time around. So yeah, my lock of the night play is going to be the under 2.5 on the main event. I think if the over hits here, Vegas is going to be making a lot of money, because I know for sure I'm not the only one on this play, and I think a lot of people are actually giving the advice of the under 2.5 in this fight. Adam, what do you consider your safest play? Let's not use the word lock.
Yeah, the
people
word
get
lock
angry
scares
about that
me,
shit.
man. It makes me like shiver, guys. Like, it scares me, so I don't
For
want to
sure.
say it. I'm not going to say it. I don't want to.
What's your safest play then?
Yeah. You know what? Like, I've been thinking the whole episode, right? Because I feel like I'm on a couple dogs this week. You know, to be honest with you, like kind of like small plays. Like nothing like there's nothing like crazy that's like hammer this one for me. But I would honestly, if there's one safe play, if I had to say, it'd be just the fight doesn't go the distance in the main event. Minus 500, because I don't think it goes the full distance.
God damn it.
There's a safe play for you guys. Is that safe enough? I think it's
minus
safe enough,
250s
right?
are better for me, guys. And Adam drops the fight, doesn't go to decision. Adam, I'm going to come back around to you. Fine. I'm going to say this. I'm going to give you, let's give this scenario. I'm giving all of you guys $1,000 that you put on your safest bet, minus 200 or better. Adam, I'll come back to you. Legs.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Legs, hit me. What do you have? Minus 200 or better. I'm giving you $1,000, and you're hoping this pays off.
I'm sticking with my largest bet of the night, Shane Burgos, minus 122. I think he's got the kryptonite style to beat it, potentially find a knockout.
I like it. AJ, what do you got?
Listen, man, Michael Chandler, knockout.
Hey.
That would be my prop. That will be my lock over the night. I'm a big guy on Chandler. I've looked into this fight a lot. I've seen what's going to happen. At the end of the day, I'm not saying I'm the MMA oracle, but in this matchup here, I've seen the vision. I'm riding Michael Chandler knockout. That's my lock of the night.
All right, let's get Adam. Give us something better than that minus 500.
I know, right? I know. You know what, guys? Like, there's a couple fights of the prelims I'm looking at. A guy I really like this Lutz guy. I really like Tucker Lutz here, and it's a pickup price. So, if I had $1,000, I mean, that's basically going to make $900 or something off that. That sounds pretty good to me, guys. On a guy that has a clear path to victory with the grappling. So, that's a play I like, guys. I'll go Tucker Lutz. There we go. There's my play.
Perfect. I love it. Again, I started this stream off by pretty much telling you guys this card is very closely aligned throughout the entire card. Be very careful in terms of, again, I for fun, I call this shit the lock of the night. It is my most confident play that I feel most confident in putting my money in, just as these guys drop their plays as well, too. But again, there's nothing like a lock of the night when it comes to MMA. So just be very careful in terms of how much you're investing into some of these bets, and check your confidence at the door, because anything can fucking happen when we close the octagon doors. All right. Great show. We have managed to do this under 2 hours, which I'm very happy about. I don't like the ones that really go over 2 hours. I know people in the live chat love to stick around and just shoot the shit. But we got places to be on a Friday night. We got lives as well, people. We do appreciate giving this information and this content to you guys. And first and foremost, shout out to the panel members here. I will swing it around the horn so everybody can plug their stuff, so you guys know where you can find them. So Adam, let's start off with you. Where can they find your work and your social media shit?
Yeah, you got it right there. Adam Martin on Twitter, guys. Always around talking fights, man. I work for a few outlets. BJPen.com is where I do my news, but I also work for MMAOddsBreaker.com and Elite Fantasy, Elite Betting, where I do my plays there, my DFS advice. So if you guys like that stuff, definitely check out their website. Yeah, man, just hit me up on Twitter, guys. Always love talking fights, and can't wait for tomorrow night, man. It's going to be awesome. Thanks again for having me, man. I had a lot of fun with you guys, so it was really good.
Absolutely. Again, you guys can follow him at MMA Damn Martin if you want to go that way as well about it too. But thank you, Adam. I appreciate you coming on the show. Legs, please do plug your stuff as well.
Yeah, thank you for having me as well. You can find me down below here, Lags_the Capper, and then as Locke touched on before, at Club and Soap Pod on Twitter, Club and Soap Podcast Wednesday nights 10 p.m. Eastern on YouTube. And I also do a prop article that I release Wednesday afternoonish for Club and Soap Podcast as well. 3 best props I talk about, and also a little degenerate prop section. So yeah, thanks for having me again.
No worries. Shout out to John Stargarian, to Luke sparring with reality betting, and obviously my guy C, who's just always on the move. Love those guys over there at the Club and Sub Pod. AJ, how can they find you? Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all that shit. Let them know where they can find you.
Find me on YouTube, MMA Experts. covering all things MMA, best sport on the planet. A little bit of boxing too. Gotta give the love to the OG. We do UFC, Bellator, PFL, one championship, and sometimes we sprinkle in some regional stuff as well. If you want me on Twitter too, I'm new to the Twitter sphere, but I realized I had to hop on it. It's AJ MMA Experts on Twitter. Instagram, you can catch me at MMA_experts. If you want like my workout stuff, go on AJ DeVito Fitness. And also a little bit of TikTok action. It's just random junk we post out there. We have to do it. It's MMA_experts on TikTok as well. Make sure you guys smash the likes and subscribe to the latest video as well. If you're looking for some predictions, you get this ugly mug all the time talking these fights.
Hey, shout out to the TikTok grind over there, because we might chuckle at it, but you can't be neglecting any market, especially when we got big markets like Twitter, Instagram, and now obviously TikTok. So shout out to you. I might be joining you over there on TikTok very shortly, as soon as I can get some more time on my motherfucking hands. But obviously, you guys know where you can find me. You're watching me on my channel, but on the social medias, MMA LOTN on Instagram, Twitter, and obviously YouTube. And I'll drop my official plays after this stream on one of those pages, so make sure you guys go check that out. Once again, shout out to the panel, Adam, Legs, AJ, appreciate you guys coming on, and appreciate up to the close to 300 live members we peaked at for watching the show, and obviously the tons of people that we're going to be watching on the replay. Appreciate you guys hanging with us. Don't have the cast for next week locked up yet, but I will drop that as soon as I can. But yeah, good luck on your bets this weekend, and hopefully we get some violence. Shout out to Michael Chandler though. Get that first round knockout.
Under 2.5.
Let's go. Under 2.5. Let's